Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever paused to think about what's really happening behind the scenes when you seamlessly log into your favorite app?
Hmm.
That invisible, intricate digital dance that keeps you connected, secure, and uniquely identified, often without you even realizing it.
Yeah, most people don't give it a second thought, do they?
Exactly. Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a truly crucial, yet often underestimated foundational area of cybersecurity: authentication and session management.
Absolutely fundamental stuff.
And it's not just about entering a password and getting past a login screen, is it?
Not at all. It's much deeper than that.
It's about the entire complex choreography that dictates who you are to an application and, critically, what you can do within it.
Right. The authorization part is just as key,
And when this dance goes wrong, the consequences are severe: unauthorized access, devastating data breaches, and complete account compromise.
which can lead to very real financial losses and serious reputational damage for any business.
We're not just theorizing today, though. We've got a fantastic, highly practical resource guiding our discussion: the Complete Business Logic Bug Bounty Hunting Guide.
Ah, yes, that's a great one. Very hands-on.
This guide is a goldmine for anyone looking to understand the in-depth vulnerability testing methodologies, specifically for authentication and session management.
Exactly. It's all about practical, real-world weaknesses that attackers are actively looking for and exploiting.
What's truly fascinating here is how this guide frames these vulnerabilities. It approaches them from a bug bounty hunter's perspective.
Yeah, which forces that sort of attacker's mindset. It's very practical.
It's about understanding not just what authentication and session management are in theory, but how they can fail in subtle business logic level ways.
Ways that, frankly, automated tools often miss entirely.
Right. So our mission today is to pull apart these specific flaws, dissect their potential impact,
Hmm.
and then explore in detail how they can be detected and, by extension, how they can be prevented.
Precisely. We're going to dive deep into concrete test cases, talk about the essential tools you'll need.
Like Burp Suite, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. Burp is central here. And we'll really unpack the critical thinking required to spot these issues.
And we'll be drawing directly from the methodology laid out in the guide.
Yes, particularly focusing on Phase 2, business logic vulnerability testing. This approach helps us uncover those hidden vulnerabilities.
The ones that fly under the radar.
Exactly. Because they involve understanding the application's unique business rules and how those rules can be cleverly subverted. Not just code flaws, but logic flaws.
Okay, it makes sense. So let's start at the very beginning of this authentication journey, the login process itself.
Good place to start.
Our guide kicks things off with a concept called username enumeration. Now, that sounds a bit cryptic, maybe. What exactly is username enumeration, and why is it such a problem?
Right, username enumeration. It's surprisingly common and actually quite impactful.
Okay.
At its core, it allows attackers to, well, basically harvest valid usernames for targeted attacks.
Harvest them, like build a list.
Exactly. Imagine an attacker trying to compile a secret roster of all existing user accounts on a system. They don't need passwords yet.
They're just figuring out who actually uses the system.
Precisely. They're building a highly accurate target list. It might sound minor, but it's a critical precursor to much worse attacks.
Like what kind of attacks?
Well, once they have that list of valid usernames, they can launch really efficient brute force attacks. They're not wasting time guessing passwords for fake accounts,
Ah, okay. So it focuses their efforts.
right? Or even more dangerous is credential stuffing. If they have lists of leaked username password pairs from other breaches
Which happens all the time.
all the time, they can test those stolen credentials only against the valid usernames they've enumerated on your platform.
Which massively increases their chances of getting in.
Significantly.
Mm.
Because they're not hitting non-existent accounts. It makes their attack much, much more effective.
Wow. Okay, so it's about efficiency and targeting. That makes sense. How do you actually test for this? What's the technical breakdown?
The guide gives a really clear methodology. First, the setup. You need to, as it says, open Burp Suite, navigate to login page.
Right, Burp Suite again, the essential tool.
Absolutely. It's your workbench. It lets you intercept, fiddle with, and analyze all the HTTP traffic between your browser and the application.
So you can see everything that's going on under the hood.
Everything. Once Burp's intercepting, you start with a baseline test. You try logging in with an obviously fake username.
Like, I don't exist 123.
Exactly. Something absurd like non-existent 123456789 with any password.
Yeah.
And you carefully note the entire response.
The error message, the timing.
The error message, the precise response time, the HTTP status code,
Yeah.
everything. This gives you a baseline for what a totally non-existent user looks like.
Okay, baseline established. What next?
Next is the comparison test. Use a known valid username, maybe one you created for testing, or a known public one,
Right.
and you deliberately use a wrong password. The goal isn't to log in. It's to see how the application reacts differently compared to the fake username attempt.
Uh-huh. Looking for those subtle differences.
Exactly. The analysis points section in the guide is key here. You're hunting for tells. Like,
Different error messages.
yep, maybe the fake user gets user not found, but the valid user with a wrong password gets invalid password. That's a dead giveaway.
Okay, that's pretty obvious. What else?
Response time variations. This one's often a really strong indicator. The guide even notes that a difference greater than 500 milliseconds is significant.
Half a second. Why such a specific time difference?
Well, think about it. A valid username might trigger, say, a database lookup for the user's record, maybe a password hashing attempt.
Operations that take a bit of time.
Right. Whereas a non-existent username might hit a much faster, nope, not here, check,
Yeah.
and skip those heavier steps entirely. That slight delay tells you something.
Fascinating. So the server's processing time reveals information. What else?
Different HTTP status codes, maybe a 200 OK for the valid but wrong password attempt versus a 401 unauthorized for the unknown user. Or even different response lengths. The valid user error might include more data, perhaps. It's about comparing every aspect of the response.
So setting up Burp Suite really turns you into a digital detective, letting you see that hidden conversation.
It absolutely does.
And you're looking for subtle tells, not just those big flashing error messages. Are there advanced variations to this? Can you find this beyond just the main login page?
Oh, definitely. The guide points this out too. This vulnerability isn't just on the login form. You have to test related endpoints.
Like where?
Well, registration pages, for instance. If you try to register with a username that already exists, does it explicitly say username taken?
Ah, that's enumeration right there.
Bingo.
Oh,
Or password reset functions. That's a classic spot.
how so?
If the forgot password flow says user does not exist for one input, but password reset link sent for another.
You can just cycle through usernames to see which ones are valid.
Exactly. And even the forgot username feature itself.
Mm-hmm.
If it confirms whether an email address is linked to an account or not, that's another vector.
Right. These are often overlooked, aren't they?
Very often. But they give attackers the same valuable list of valid accounts, sometimes even easier than hitting the main login page. It's all about the application accidentally confirming existence.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
So moving beyond just finding out who is registered, the guide then jumps into registration logic manipulation.
Mhm. This is where things can get really serious, really fast.
It sounds like it could have a really high impact.
Yeah.
Privilege escalation right at signup. Well, what's the core idea?
Yeah, the business impact here can be immediate and, frankly, devastating. It can lead to immediate privilege escalation or bypassing verification.
So an attacker registers like a normal user, but gets admin rights.
Potentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could skip crucial steps like email or phone verification. It's a direct attack on the application's core access controls and onboarding process.
Wow. How does that even work? How do you test for it?
The process is quite revealing. You start with a normal registration, intercepting the request in Burp.
Get the baseline again?
Exactly. Then comes the critical step, parameter analysis. You've meticulously examined the JSON body or form parameters in that request for anything suspicious.
Suspicious how? Parameters that shouldn't be there.
Parameters that might not be visible in the UI but are used internally by the app to set user attributes. Things the server should be setting, not the client.
Like what? Give me some examples.
The guide lists common ones. You might see role, user. The attacker tries changing it to role, admin.
Seriously, just like that.
If the server isn't validating, yes. Or maybe verified. False gets changed to verified.
True.
Great.
Bypassing email checks.
Right. Or plan. Free becomes plan, premium.
Yeah.
Or even changing credits, 0 to credits, 1,000.
So they're basically just telling the server what they want their account to be like.
Pretty much. These parameters directly reflect internal business logic states that the server should control.
That's such a powerful point. The fundamental flaw of trusting client-side input.
It's the cardinal sin of web security. Never trust the client.
So the attacker just intercepts the registration, changes role, user to role, admin, sends it off.
And then performs the crucial verification step. You can't just assume it worked based on the response.
You have to actually log in and check.
Absolutely. Log in with that new account. Do you really have admin powers? Was the email verification skipped? Did your balance go up? You have to confirm the impact.
And the guide lists common parameters to look for.
Yes, it gives a great list. Role, user type, level, admin, verified, confirmed, approved, plan, subscription, tier, premium, balance, credits, points, limit.
Wow, quite a few. Their presence in a client request is a massive red flag.
Huge. If the server trusts these without its own validation, it's a major vulnerability. It's a failure in the server's logic, not necessarily complex code.
It's a break in trust. Okay, now let's get into what feels like the real core of today's deep dive. Session management flaws.
Ah, yes, session management. Crucial stuff.
The guide lists several scenarios here, which really highlights how complex just maintaining that logged-in state actually is. What's the big picture?
The big picture, fundamentally, is about unauthorized persistent access.
Someone staying logged in when they shouldn't be.
Exactly. An attacker maintaining control of a user's session even after logout, or when the session should have expired or been restricted, if the session is the key to the house.
These flaws mean someone else gets a copy or the key keeps working after you leave.
Perfect analogy. And the first specific flaw discussed is session fixation.
Session fixation. Okay, how does that work? It sounds subtle.
It is subtle, but dangerous. Imagine an attacker manages to give a user a specific session ID before they log in.
How would they do that?
Could be through a crafted link, maybe an XSS attack that sets the cookie. It relies on getting the victim to use an ID the attacker already knows,
Okay, so the victim uses the attacker's chosen ID.
and then logs in successfully with their own credentials. The critical flaw happens if the server doesn't generate a new, fresh session ID after that successful login.
It just keeps using the one the attacker provided.
If it does, yes. Then the attacker, knowing that original fixed session ID, can just use it to hijack the now authenticated session.
Wow, so the key is that lack of a fresh session ID after login.
Precisely. It's like giving someone a pre-used key, they unlock the door, but you still have the original copy.
That seems like a fundamental oversight. How is it tested?
The steps are clear. First, get session ID before login. Just visit the site unauthenticated and grab the ID from the cookies.
Okay.
Second, figure out how to log in with that session ID. For testing, you'd use burp to ensure that specific ID is sent with the login request.
Got it.
Finally, and most importantly, check if session ID changed after login. If the server gives back the same session ID you started with.
Vulnerability confirmed. The session's compromised from the start, even with valid credentials?
Exactly. Even if the user did everything right, their session integrity is broken because the ID wasn't regenerated.
Okay, that's session fixation. What's next in the session management minefield?
Next up is session reuse after logout. Another one that sounds simple but catches a lot of applications out.
Right. The name suggests the problem. The session keeps working after you log out.
So that's exactly it. Your session token or cookie, your logged-in badge, remains valid and usable even after you've explicitly hit the logout button.
Like locking the door, but the key still works for someone who grabbed it.
Perfect. The guide's checklist directly asks, do sessions expire properly after logout? And can you reuse old session tokens? The answer must be no.
So how do you test that?
It's straightforward with a tool like Burp or a cookie editor. First, log in and copy session token. Grab that session cookie value.
Okay, got the token.
Then perform some authenticated actions. Just browse around, make sure the session is active.
Prove it's working.
Right. Then, crucially, log out completely. Hit the logout button.
Which should kill the session on the server.
Should, but now you test it. Replace current session with copied token. You inject that old token back into your browser or burp request.
Okay, using the expired token again.
And finally, try accessing protected resources. Can you still get to your dashboard, your settings? If yes,
The vulnerability exists. The logout didn't actually invalidate the session server side.
exactly. Maybe the server just relied on the browser deleting the cookie, which isn't secure. The server must actively invalidate that session state.
And this relates to those predictable session IDs you mentioned earlier.
It can compound the problem, absolutely. If IDs are predictable and they don't expire properly on logout, it's even easier for an attacker. But the core issue here is the failure to invalidate on logout.
Can you elaborate quickly on what makes an ID predictable? Beyond just 1, 2, 3?
Sure, predictable doesn't just mean sequential. It could be based on timestamps, maybe easily guessable hashes of user IDs, or generated using weak pseudo-random number generators.
So things an attacker could potentially guess or calculate.
Exactly. If they can predict a valid ID format, they might not even need to steal one. They could just generate one, especially if sessions don't expire properly. That's why IDs need to be long, random, and cryptographically strong. Truly unpredictable.
Got it. So, unpredictable IDs and proper invalidation on logout. What's the third session management issue?
The third one is concurrent session management. This looks at how an application handles multiple active logins for the same user simultaneously.
Like being logged in on your laptop and your phone at the same time?
Precisely. Or using multiple browsers. How does logging out of one affect the others?
This seems really important for user security, especially on public or shared computers.
Hugely important. A robust system should ideally invalidate other sessions, or at least offer the option to log out everywhere, especially after something sensitive like a password change.
How do you test for this?
It's pretty intuitive. First, log in from multiple devices browsers.
Wow.
Use Chrome, Firefox, maybe an incognito window, all with the same account.
Establish multiple active sessions.
Right. Then, log out from one device, say log out from Chrome.
Okay.
Then, immediately check if other sessions remain active.
Yeah.
Jump back to Firefox. Are you still logged in? Can you still navigate protected areas?
If you are, that's the flaw.
Correct. Ideally, logging out of one should trigger invalidation of others, or at least prompt the user. Many secure apps offer a log out of all other devices feature.
And things like password changes must invalidate old sessions, right?
Absolutely critical. Otherwise, an attacker who compromised the password could still maintain access via an old, lingering session. It ties back to managing the overall account state securely.
Okay, so we've outlined these critical flaws. Enumeration, registration manipulation, session fixation, reuse after logout, concurrent sessions. For someone actually doing this work, developer, tester, bug hunter, what are the go-to tools and practical steps?
Right. Moving from theory to practice, it really requires active, methodical testing. You can't just rely on scanners.
So Burp Suite is central.
Absolutely central.
Yeah.
Leveraging Burp Suite for deep inspection is key. It's not just a proxy.
What specific Burp features are most useful here?
Well, for username enumeration, Burp's Compare tool is brilliant. You send the two responses, fake user, valid user, wrong password to compare, and it highlights byte-level differences. Makes spotting those subtle variations in messages or lengths super easy.
Like a digital spot the difference.
Exactly. For parameter manipulation during registration, you use Burp's repeater. Intercept the request, send it to repeater, and then you can tweak parameters like role or verified over and over again without refilling the form.
Much faster testing.
Way faster. And for checking things like predictable session IDs, Burp's Intruder can automate sending many requests with different potential IDs, though you need to be careful with that. But just the core ability to intercept, modify, and analyze raw HTTP is foundational.
It sounds like detective work, finding those tiny clues in the traffic.
It really is. These are often logical failures, not blatant crashes. The bug is in the logic.
Are there other tools besides Burp, maybe quicker checks?
Yeah, browser extensions can be really handy. The guide mentions Cookie Editor.
For messing with cookies directly in the browser.
Exactly. Super useful for testing session reuse after logout or fixation. You can quickly copy an old session ID, log out, paste the old ID back in, and see if you're still logged in, without constantly going back to Burp for simple checks.
Nifty. Any others?
Well, Wapalizer is mentioned for reconnaissance. It tells you the underlying tech stack, framework, server, etc.
How does that help with auth testing?
It can give you clues. Certain frameworks might have known session handling quirks or default configurations that are insecure. It helps focus your testing.
So understanding the platform matters? The core skill seems to be that detailed observation and comparison, though.
Absolutely. Comparing responses, status codes, timing differences meticulously. It's about spotting anomalies in that digital chatter.
What are the common mistakes people make when testing for these things? The pitfalls?
Good question. The guide highlights a few common pitfalls. One big one is focusing only on technical vulnerabilities.
Like only looking for XSS or SQL injection.
Exactly. Instead of understanding the business logic. For auth session, don't just brute force passwords. Understand how the app handles state, roles, transitions. Dig into the logic.
And another pitfall.
Not understanding the business. Testing random features without knowing their purpose. You have to understand the user lifecycle. Registration, password reset, login, logout, roles. Map out those critical flows. Otherwise, you're testing blind.
Makes sense. Understand the process you're attacking.
And finally, inadequate impact assessment. Not explaining the business impact.
Right. Session fixation might seem small, But if it leads to account takeover,
That's a critical risk. You have to articulate the worst-case scenario: financial loss, data breach, reputation damage. The impact is key.
okay, solid advice. Now let's push into more advanced territory. Multi-factor authentication bypasses. MFA feels like it should be the ultimate protection.
It should be a very strong layer, yes. But even MFA can be bypassed through these same kinds of business logic flaws. It's not usually about breaking the MFA code itself.
It's about flaws in how it's implemented.
Precisely. Exploiting weaknesses in the workflow. The guide calls it Test Case 4.2, Multi-Factor Authentication Bypass, and the impact is potentially complete account compromise.
High severity then. How can MFA be bypassed?
Two main ways are outlined. First, SMS email verification bypass. This targets those one-time codes sent to your phone or email.
Okay, how do you bypass that?
Attackers try to skip the verification step entirely or manipulate the status. One way is accessing protected resources directly.
Meaning?
After you enter your password correctly, but before you enter the MFA code, you try navigating directly to, say, the dashboard URL. If the server isn't enforcing MFA at the resource level.
You might get straight in, bypassing the MFA prompt.
Exactly, the enforcement gap. Another method is modifying verification status in requests.
Similar to the registration manipulation.
Very similar. Intercept the request after the password step, look for a parameter like verified empa.false or empa status pending, and try changing it to true or completed.
Hoping the server just trusts the client saying, yep, I did the MFA.
Exactly. If there's no server-side check that the code was actually validated, it can work. And sometimes, simpler things like accepting predictable code 0000000123456 make it trivial.
Okay, so that's SMS email. What's the other type of bypass?
The more general two-factor authentication bypass. This applies after the first factor password is entered, trying to skip the second factor prompt altogether.
Yeah.
Again, direct navigation to dashboard is a common test. Or modifying authentication status, looking for a more general flag like authenticated, false, and trying to flip it to true prematurely.
Tricking the app into thinking you're fully logged in before you are.
Right. And also replaying old authenticated requests. If you have a valid session token from a previous fully authenticated session, sometimes replaying that token or request might work even if a new MFA challenge is pending.
If the server doesn't properly invalidate old sessions when MFA is triggered.
Precisely. It often boils down to improper state management or authorization checks after the initial password step, but before MFA is fully confirmed. The app assumes success too early.
So it's about finding gaps in the enforcement, not cracking the MFA tech itself.
Exactly. Classic business logic flaws applied to security features. It shows security isn't just about the feature, but its rigorous implementation in the whole process.
Okay, connecting this all together. Username enumeration, registration flaws, all the session issues, MFA bypasses. What's the overarching lesson here?
The critical lesson is that robust authentication and session management is so much more than just a strong password policy or adding MFA.
It's about the underlying logic.
It's about meticulously securing the entire business logic that governs identity, privilege, and session lifecycle creation, maintenance, and destruction. The whole digital identity journey.
So for someone building or securing apps, what are the absolute must-do actionable takeaways?
Okay, key takeaways. First, implement strong server-side validation. Cannot stress this enough. Never trust client input for roles, verification status, plans, anything critical. The server must decide.
Rule number 1. Got it.
Second, proper session management lifecycle. This means always regenerate session IDs after login to stop fixation.
Fresh key every time.
Explicitly invalidate sessions server-side on logout. Don't rely on the browser.
Kill the session properly.
Use secure cookie attributes like HTTP only and secure to protect the token itself.
Protect the key.
And implement sensible session timeouts, both absolute and idle, to limit the window for attack.
Okay, solid session hygiene. What else?
Third, comprehensive MFA enforcement. Enforce it at every critical point and ensure the application state truly reflects MFA completion before granting full access. No shortcuts, no bypasses allowed by faulty logic.
Enforce it everywhere it matters.
Fourth, defensive design principles. Think deny by default, grant access explicitly, use least privilege, build security in from the start.
Assume insecure unless proven otherwise.
And finally, continuous testing. Use these methodologies from the guide, the enumeration tests, the manipulation checks, the session tests regularly. Integrate them into your development lifecycle. Don't wait for a breach.
Test like an attacker, continuously.
That's the best defense. Make it routine.
This deep dive really hammered home how even simple-looking logins hide complex logic that, if flawed, is disastrous. It reminds me of that guide advice. Think like a business owner. Understand the real impact.
Exactly.
For you, our listener, this isn't just theory. It's about building safer systems or asking tougher questions about the apps you rely on every day.
And it really brings up a crucial point. If even something we see as robust, like MFA, can be undermined by business logic flaws,
Mm.
what other security layers might have these unexpected cracks?
Hmm.
How consistently are you validating every input, every state change in your systems? Because security isn't just what you build. It's how thoroughly you test its real-world resilience against this kind of logical attack.
A sobering thought to end on. And that's our deep dive into authentication and session management vulnerabilities.
Hope it was insightful.
We certainly hope it's given you a clearer, more practical understanding of these critical concepts and how to approach them with that necessary deep dive mindset. You can find resources like the Complete Business Logic Bug Bounty Hunting Guide online. And remember, staying informed is an ongoing process.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep securing.
Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.